Today we are going to continue with the Stone Age and do the second part. We are going to deal with Neolithic age and Chalcolithic age. So let us begin. Neolithic age or the New Stone Age was a period when man made plenty of progress. They progressed further. This period is better known for discovery of agriculture, domestication of animals, making of fine pottery, and invention of wheel. These are the four most important events that we are going to discuss further. We begin with agriculture. Like fire, man discovered agriculture by chance. Early man ate fruits and threw away the seeds. Gradually, these seeds germinated into new plants. This was a great discovery, and so man learned how to grow plants from seeds. By growing their own food crops, by growing plants, man became a food producer from being a food gatherer. During the Old Stone Age period, they used to gather food and hunt for animals. You must be remembering, and they were called hunter gatherers. So now they progressed and they became a food producer. They started growing food. Early man stopped being a nomad and moved from one place to another, and instead they started leading a settled life. Instead of a wanderer, he began to live a settled life in a place suitable for agriculture. And which place will be suitable for agriculture? Places on the banks of rivers or places where water was available. So gradually, early man started settling on the banks of river and lakes where water was available for growing crops. For this, they needed shelter. They needed place to live. Where would they live? So they also learned and started making houses, how to construct dwellings out of things which were easily available, like mud and leaves. People began to live in groups, and these settlements grew into villages. Man began to produce enough grain which had to be stored, and so he also learned to make baskets which were plastered with mud. So gradually, as things went on progressing, more and more inventions and discoveries were made. So man learned to grow crops, they learned to settle down near water places, then they learned how to make houses, and then they also learned slowly how to make baskets in which they could store food. The food habits also changed. Now man grew wheat, barley, and also vegetables. So his diet consisted of meat, fish, fruits, milk, barley, and grains. With the discovery of agriculture, man realized the importance of domesticating animals. They also realized the importance of domesticating animals, of taming animals. So that brings us to the next point. Man realized that instead of killing goats, sheep, and oxen, he should domesticate them. He should tame them. He used the oxen as a means of transport. So the animals which early man domesticated included dogs, goat, sheep, cows, oxen, donkeys, horses, and similar animals. And these animals were used in many ways by him. Animals such as oxen, horses, donkeys helped him in transportation and moving heavy loads from one place to another. Goats and cows supplied man with milk. He got wool from the sheep to protect himself from the cold. So, slowly, man learned to be friendly with animals and to use them for their various kinds of purposes. Important Neolithic sites which are found are Chirand in Bihar, Gufkaral and Burzahom in Jammu and Kashmir, Mehergarh in Pakistan, and Maski and Fiklihal in Karnataka. Next, we move to pottery. As man began to get milk, vessels were needed to store them. So he made earthen pots to store things like milk or grains. These pots were given different shapes and dried in the sun. And these were made of clay. They had different kinds of shapes, and after making the pot, they used to dry it in the sun. And to make it even harder, later they baked it in an oven. Some pots were decorated with various designs of animal figures on them. Invention of wheel was another important event of this period. The invention of wheel brought many changes in the life of man. The use of wheel made transportation easier and faster. Wheel was put to great use by the potters. In fact, potter's wheel came into use earlier than any other use of wheel. A potter started making fine potteries of different shapes and sizes quickly using the wheels. Later, the wheel was also used for spinning and weaving. Then man began to make clothes. So, we have finished all the 4 important discoveries, all the 4 events that took place during the New Stone Age, and they include agriculture. Then we learned about domestication of animal. Then we learned about making of potteries and invention of wheel. And when they invented wheel, the pottery became even better. They started making finer potteries and very faster too. Let us now learn about the social and religious life of primitive men. As we all know, man is a social animal. So even the primitive man used to move and live in groups. These groups were called class, and a combination of class was called a tribe. After agriculture became known to people, they settled down and villages started coming up. We have already learned that they settled near water sources and they started forming villages. The eldest or the strongest man of the clan was chosen as the village headman. And this person had the responsibility of protecting the entire clan from the external dangers. And what could those dangers be? They could be invaders, people who could attack them, other people who would attack them, or it could even be bigger animals. Goods and services were now exchanged, and hence the system known as barter system started. During this period, we saw barter system starting. And what do we mean by barter system? Goods were exchanged because there was no coin money, so people used to exchange goods. Like anyone having grains would give it to a person who had plenty of milk, or who could give some milk and take. He used to take milk and give grains in exchange. Similarly, anything else which they needed, they would exchange in that with some other thing, not with money. This system of barter existed until coin money came into use. Later they came to know, they invented, or they made some coins, and they started using it as the thing used to buy things. But before that, we had coin money, we had this barter system. Now, division of labor was also found. What does it mean? Work was distributed in the family. In a family, women looked after the household and men took part in outdoor activities. So, this was the social life of early people. Now, we will learn about their religious practices, what beliefs they had. Even when men settled down in villages, they could not understand the mysteries of nature, like setting of the sun or rising of the sun, then why we have thunder, lightning, or what causes rain or thunder showers. They could not understand these things, so they began to fear the natural forces. They, and obviously they must be suffering with some diseases also, and they thought that these diseases from which they used to suffer were due to God's anger. So they tried to pacify God's anger through prayers. Man started worshipping the forces of nature as gods. Now, the primitive men also believed in life after death. They believed that death was a journey to another world. We go to some other world. So, when they buried the dead bodies, they used to keep pots, weapons, and other things of use with the body, because they thought that these things would be required in the other world. So, these are some social and religious practices which were followed by people of Neolithic age. Now, we are coming to the end of this age, this period, in fact, Neolithic age, and then we will move to the next one. So, despite all these changes in the and progress, one thing was still lacking in early man, and that was they did not know how to write. The knowledge of writing came at a much later stage. So, this brings us to the end of Neolithic age. We will be moving to the next age now. The next age was Chalcolithic age, which was also called Copper and Stone age. In this age, man used both stone and copper for making tools. Copper was the first metal to be discovered by man, and most probably, like fire and agriculture, copper was also discovered accidentally. Man discovered that it could be shaped into any form. Now you must be remembering that early man started using tools, stone tools, and during the old stone age they were very crude, very rough tools. Just they used to either use big pieces of stones or little bit of shape they used to give to that piece of stone. But later in new stone age they learned to make more refined tools, and they used to sharpen the tools. They used small tools, they made big tools, they made axe heads, and even put wooden handle in those axe heads. Now during Chalcolithic age the tools became even more developed, because metal was very easy to shape into any form. It was easier to shape metals into any form, and in course of time copper began to be mixed with other metals to form alloys. They started mixing metals, and when we mix metals, what we get, that is called alloy. Like steel is an alloy. So man gradually learned to mix tin with copper to produce bronze. They learned how to mix tin and copper and make bronze. So they started moving towards Bronze Age. Now in India, copper tools have been found in Rajasthan, in Bihar, and in the Ganga Yamuna basin. The discovery of metal was an event of great importance, because artisans, they found copper useful for making various tools and ornaments. They even started making ornaments. Now slowly we will move to the next age. This brings us to the end of Stone Age, but we are not going to end here. we will learn a little bit about what happened after Stone Age. And then came Iron Age. As we have already seen, towards the end of Stone Age, people learned how to make bronze. And after bronze, we moved into Iron Age. The discovery of iron was a major advancement in the history of civilizations. Iron was a harder metal than copper and bronze, and it was also cheaper. A number of iron tools were developed, like sickles, shovels, spades, and these tools, they helped in clearing the jungles to get more land for agriculture. So civilization started spreading, expanding. More land was acquired, people started moving more and more, spreading more and more, and progress was made. The Iron Age began from 1500 BC in Palestine, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Greece, and in India it began in about 1000 BC. This period coincides with the later Vedic period, and the duration is 1000 BC to 600 BC. Many new inventions were made during the Iron Age. Progress in trade and transportation led to rapid advancement and expansion of civilization. So with this, we come to the end of this chapter. In this chapter, we learned about Stone Age, and later we learned a little bit about Bronze Age, and finally we learned about Iron Age. So keep learning, and we will meet again with the next tutorial soon.